are a troll slayer, so don't tell me that you don't do Vivaad. I have seen some of your tweets.
When we deal with people who know less, know nothing really, but are really confident, you don't know how to get through to them.
Listen, I know you have things against trolls and you may consider me a troll right now, but you are every Desi parent's nightmare. You did an MBBS, and then as your parents were about to distribute laddus, you said, I don't want to be a doctor, so they had to take it back. Then you passed the civil service exam, and they were very excited, Hamara beta IAS banega, officer banega, and you said, I don't want to do that. And you became a writer. What was your parents' reaction to this?
They were scared because you're not following the regular path. But I think they wanted me to be happy, and they could see how unhappy I was. It was also a difficult time for me because I didn't know which path I was going to take. And I didn't think I would be writing. I knew what I did not want to be. I didn't want to be a clinician. I didn't want to definitely not be a civil servant. So when I came back, I was a little lost. I went into what is called medical communications, which is a combination of writing and medicine. And I think that's sort of opened opportunities. Mythology came very late in my life. It came when I was, well, technically speaking, came 30 years ago, but then I'm not as young as I look.
Now I want to ask you a very important question which everybody wants to know. How do you keep all this information in your head? Is there a memory palace? No, I really want to know because I am fascinated by memory. I don't know if you read this book by Joshua Foer called Moonwalking with Einstein. And it's about how you put all these facts in your head. You have to build a memory palace. How do you keep all of this in your head?
You remember things that really, really excite you. If somebody asks, I don't remember my own...
I don't think so. I mean, I've forgotten, names of boyfriends who really excited me, so I can't really say that.
So did I. I read and write the subject 24/7, mythology especially. I can't remember birthdays. I can't remember other facts in other departments. Is it mythology? Is it history? And I know that no matter how many times I answer, the question will still come. Because somewhere in our hearts, we believe reality is based on evidence. And that's the mistake we make. Reality has nothing to do with evidence. Sita can give all the evidence in the world that she has been faithful, but she'll still be told to leave the palace. Reality is something totally different. So the data and these ideas of we give too much importance to history. History is the past. Mythology is timeless. So for me, these things, while dates are important and remembering things, and I usually do it by repeating things again and again and again and again. So I keep saying that in my articles, in my books. If you come to my desk, you will see I keep making these lists.
So we've established history and mythology and now religion.
Religion is social. It's not personal. It's a way of binding people together using an idea. The rituals, festivals, it binds you together. So Raksha Bandhan is coming up, brothers and sisters are bound together. There is Diwali, the whole family comes together. So rituals and festivals, and these are performative ways in which religion is. So patriotism is a new religion. It's a secular religion. And it didn't exist before nation states.
I don't know if it's binding people together. In fact, I think in my family, I've stopped actually telling people that, left is right or right is wrong, especially when they're driving because you have an accident.
Somebody about 100 years ago decided nation states should exist. And to bind people together, they created a story, symbol and ritual. So flags, for example. Flag is a symbol. And therefore, when somebody burns the flag, we react viscerally. 200 years ago, nobody would have recognized this as an Indian flag. Nation state is a cultural truth communicated through stories, symbols, and rituals. Secular folks have this hierarchy that we are better than the people with religion, which is not true. Everyone has an irrational...
But there's a difference. Being secular and having a religion are two things. You can be very religious and still be secular.
Yes.
So there isn't a disparity between being secular and being religious.
Absolutely. You can be both, you can be either, you can be neither. So all things exist. We create this binary of religion and secular and all that. Let me give you an example of a secular mythology. Justice. Justice doesn't exist in the world. It's a like God. God also doesn't exist in the world. Both are concepts. In mathematics, there's something called infinity. Infinity doesn't exist. You ask to any mathematician, he'll say, no, infinity doesn't exist. But if infinity as a concept didn't exist, we can't do calculus. We can't solve all the problems that we are solving. God is like that infinity. Justice is like that infinity. If you don't have that concept, you can't solve issues of your life.
When you wrote this, what was the purpose? What did you want for people?
I saw people talking about the Gita and they would never clarify it's their interpretation. And I realized that every scholar argues with the other and they're constantly arguing. And I'm like, why aren't they listening to people? Because argument doesn't get a better answer. Listening gets a better answer. So for me, Samvaad was important, not Vivaad. And that's why the book was written, because it's about Samvaad, it's about listening. Because what Arjun is going through, you and I may not go through. We don't want to go and kill our relatives. We may want to. As I said it, I'm like, oops. They all flashed before my eyes. I'm trying to see it for the new generation, the young person, me, my nephews, my nieces, all of them. How are they going to react to this book? So I wanted to make it contemporary, and I realized the Sanskrit book itself is not written the way modern books are written. There is no introduction, middle, and conclusion. So I'm not just interested in understanding a subject, I enjoy communicating a subject. I'm obsessed with clarity and explanations. The whole book, in fact, it was a struggle because I had these huge Excel sheets with maps drawn to explain this verse with that verse, which verse do I cluster together, because I'm not following a linear pattern. And I think that was a challenge, and I think it came out quite well. I was quite happy with the output.
So your book, my association with it is, in Welcome to Paradise, there was a story about a woman who is seeking euthanasia. And that I was writing that for my dissertation, for my master's. And I was at the end and there was one layer missing. I felt that there was a layer why she keeps changing her mind. And I was reading My Gita at that time. And in the beginning, you have this little bit about how Krishna solves Arjuna's problem. And it is analysis and then synthesis. And that it's a complex solution which is behavioral, intellectual, and emotional in nature. And I made the character do a similar dissection. So when we had to do a critical analysis, we have to write about the influences and all that. So My Gita and your name is in my dissertation and part of my history now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that's how I got involved with this book. So
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, well, so now we are joined in some way. You spoke about Samvaad and Vivaad and fighting, but you are a troll slayer. So don't tell me that you don't do Vivaad. I have seen some of your tweets. So tell me a little bit about this stance that you take where, you combat people when they say things, or has that changed over time?
You see, when the mother gets angry with a petulant child, the mother does a performance of anger, that I will beat you up. And this whole drama, and parents are very good at this theater that they have to perform in order to get the children to eat green vegetables. That's how I see myself. I'm dealing with real children. Usko सीधा बात करो तो समझ में नहीं आता है. They were not that intelligent. If they were intelligent children, I could have just told them the answer. And the word Leela, which is used in Sanskrit, unfortunately is translated as pastime, which is horrifying. Leela is something that I think parents and especially mothers will understand, because in order to get your child to do the homework, you have to constantly do Leela. पापा आ जाएंगे, मम्मी आ जाएगी, मैं तुमको हॉलिडे लेके जाऊंगा, ये गिफ्ट करूंगा, all the lies that you have to tell, all the drama that you have to do, that's Leela. Now, are you manipulating the child? Of course you're manipulating the child. Of course you're lying to the child. But you are doing that as part of the parenting process. So when you see Durga's those large eyes, she's not angry with Mahishasur. And that's why one of the things in Indian art, if you see Krishna on a battlefield, He's never angry. They never show Indian gods angry unless they say, Abhi unhone Raudra Roop liya. They are doing Leela. They are performing. They are dealing with children. That's why the word, the word avatar and all is explained is because...
I'm going to say, are you saying you are the avatar of, Ram and Krishna and you're doing Leela for all these unintelligent Twitter people?
See, if I ask you a question on a subject that you know a lot about, and let's say there is a subject that you're very good at, and I come to you and I've argued, and you have to you can pull rank and say, I have 10 years more experience, I know more than you, or you play the game to indulge my stupidity. We all do it. It's not me. When we deal with people who know less, know nothing really, but are really confident, you don't know how to get through to them. And sometimes you don't want to get through to them, you walk away from them. But sometimes you choose, I want to get through to this person. Now, Twitter is an empty space. It's a black hole. I delete all my tweets after, usually it's happening after 2 whiskeys. So, when I'm like bored and nothing to do, my friends say, when a flight is delayed, right? Because they see the Twitters coming rapidly, I'll get calls. Intervention, we know you're in the airport, you have nothing else to do, so you're finding people to attack. Because it's like, birds को ऐसे वो pebbles फेंकना है, कुछ time pass नहीं है, तो वो करो. I'm not going to change the world by my Twitter wars. I have no desire to change the world. The world cannot be changed. The most disturbing part of the Gita is the realization. Hinduism has the concept of the helpless God. Krishna cannot stop the war. No matter, even with his great negotiation skills, he cannot stop the war. At the end of the war, he gets cursed and his children die fighting each other. And he watches the kingdom he has built go under the sea. Which other mythology will talk about Purushottama, the great god, witnessing the destruction of his city, his entire clan, his entire family, dying and observing Dwarka going under the sea? So when I was writing My Gita, and since I'd written the Mahabharata before My Gita, I knew the story. And I'm like, okay, how does this philosophy fit into the story? It is not outside the story. Helplessness of the infinite, all-powerful being is a very important Indian concept that most people who talk about Hinduism don't know. When they talk about God, they are really using a Judeo-Christian definition of God, all-powerful. God is not a judge in Hinduism. How do you explain these concepts to a person? You have to do all this Leela.
We'll accept this answer for now. You spoke about these being unintelligent children, but you have written a book for intelligent children, ABC of Hinduism for kids. Tell me what you wanted kids to get out of that. What is special about that book? Should I buy it for my kid? Give me the whole spiel.
So I wanted the children to know that Hinduism is not just what the Brahmins tell you. It's not just Sanskrit. So many people ask me about Sanskrit. Aapko Sanskrit pata hai? I said, no, I have very good translators out there. They do a good job unless you think they're bad translators. So because the translations are fantastic. So that's what I'm trying to do with ABC in Hinduism or any of my books. I'm trying to get people to see the world which is out there. But I was surprised that people didn't know these stories. They just didn't know it. And they would be arguing about religion so much. I said, but ye padha hai, ye padha hai, ye padha hai, isko jante ho, usko jante ho. And I think that's my thing, what I'm trying to do with ABC in Hinduism, with My Gita. I'm trying to tell people there is more to this world to explore. It's a huge world and you'll never finish it. It'll never get over it. So enjoy the process of listening, Samvaad, not Vivaad. And listen to people who know more than you.
After 2 drinks especially.
Especially. Always.
Now tell us a little bit about your process as a writer. How do you begin? Are you scared of the blank page? Do you research extensively for months? Do you always have an idea? Do you write every day?
So I write about 5 columns a week. So that's about 250 articles a year besides 4 books. Yeah, so it's a lot because I really have nothing else to do in my life.
What advice would you give to budding writers? Because I'm sure we have quite a few of them. What would you tell them?
Ask yourself, why does anyone want to read your book? Many writers want to write, and I always ask them, but why does anybody want? Nobody is obliged to read your book. Nobody is obliged to read your book. Work with that presumption. Ki Nobody wants to read my book. What do I have to do? Why should they read my book? Because everybody wants a voice, but people don't have a ear. They are not interested. And you have to work with the fact that people are not interested in your story or your subject. And then your brain starts to work differently because it's not what you want to express. I've had these many young people telling me these stories, which I said, it's very nice, but why are you telling me the story? I'm never going to read this book. Because I'm so busy doing my work, it's not something that I'm interested in. But I'm sure there's a reader out there who would love your book. But ask yourself, what does that reader looking for?
My question is for you, ma'am. So if you were to write a book about a female mythological character, who would you pick and why?
Probably Durga, because like her, I want to stick my tongue out at the world. So I think it would be Durga.
Why do you even get into that tweet battle?
Grant me my right to be stupid. And if people don't have the grace to allow me that space, I'll move to another space where people are gracious enough to allow me to be stupid.
So you have a great knack for finding humor in real life. Have you ever gotten in trouble for it?
I have 40 ligament tears in my left leg, and my mother says it's not because I keep falling, it's because I twist my foot and put it into my mouth all the time. Yes, I get into trouble, but over time, I also used to have battles on Twitter, outside Twitter, but now I have stopped because I've become old and all those hormones have sort of dried up.
I have a 7-year-old child, and he asks me questions on morality, what is right and what is wrong. And we have decided as a family not to bring in contexts and things from the religious texts or mythology to actually explain things. So in that situation, how do I actually tell a child who is like a blank slate what is right and what is wrong?
So 2 parts. One, don't carry the burden of educating your children. Yeah, that's a parental burden. When I travel, I have many of these parents who will tell the children, Devdutt ji ko pooch lo, as if I'll give them some magical answer and the child will become genius. I'm like, no, I'm so sorry, it's not going to work. Don't carry the burden. Dusri baat hai, there is no such thing as right and wrong. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you this right, wrong as an idea is a legal framework. Always teach them, agar tum kuch le rahe ho, to kya de rahe ho? If you're deriving pleasure in insulting someone, what are you going to give in return now? Now you start teaching them debit and credit. They'll become good financial consultants. But start looking at life as debit and credit rather than right and wrong. Right and wrong leads to Vivaad. I'm right, you are wrong. That if they learn, life, their relationships, their friendships, their dealing with life will become a little bit easier.
For all the older women, experience is much greater than young neurons. Just take that home.